Good morning. This is for Western Civ 1. And I will explain in your parents in an email, but I'll tell you again on here right now. This is a temporary thing. They are putting an emergency exit into my regular classroom at Gracewood. And I am told the emergency exits should be installed and the classrooms ready for use within 3 weeks. So this is just for 3 Tuesdays that we're going to have to do this video thing. At most, maybe just 2. If they get on the ball and really finish, and maybe this will only be 1 Tuesday this day and next week Tuesday, and we'll be in my classroom, full live instruction. But it'll just be on Tuesday anyway. See, Ms. Knoll and I both have to give lectures to teach our classes, but the cafeteria is simply no place to have 2 competing lectures going on at the same time. So on Tuesday, I'm going to use video to teach you, and you're going to have an earpiece in. On Thursday, I'll be lecturing out loud, and Ms. Knoll will be quietly tutoring her math students in the other corner, but not lecturing out loud. So, should be manageable. And if you're with me on Wednesdays, we have the floor to use the television for documentaries. I intend to show you a documentary tomorrow and talk through that, so I can talk out loud then too. But this Tuesday, next Tuesday, and maybe one more Tuesday, I've got to teach you with you listening on an earpiece and watching a video. Now, I'm going to be right there in the room with you. If you have any questions, come up and ask them. But we just have to slog through this video thing on Tuesdays for 2 or 3 weeks, and then back to normal class in my normal classroom. Okay, so that's the drill. Now, you're going to have a sheet to fill in. You listen to the video, and then you'll write short answers on a sheet based on the video. I am going to make, I think, 3 videos today, short. I have to upload them to YouTube, and I've learned that long videos often don't successfully load up to YouTube from my phone. So we'll make a couple, 3, I think, 12 or so minute long videos, and then give you, 10 minutes to write answers to short answer questions on the material. Okay? So, the subject matter of Western Civ 1 dates from the dawn of civilization through the end of what in Europe are called the Middle Ages. All right, so the dawn of civilization begins in Mesopotamia. Now that's an area that's the modern day country of Iraq, Kuwait, parts of Syria, and Turkey. So in the Middle East, it's the area between 2 rivers. That's what the word Mesopotamia means. M-E-S-O, Mesopotamia, P-O-T-A-M-I-A. Potamos means river in Greek. Meso means middle. So Mesopotamia means land between the rivers. Land between the rivers. Now the 2 rivers are the Tigris. So I hope you're taking notes. Get your pen, your paper, write them down. The 2 rivers of Mesopotamia, the land between the rivers, are the Tigris, T-I-G-R-I-S, Tigris. Not tigress like a female tiger, but Tigris. And the Euphrates, E-U-P-H-R-A-T-E-S. R-A-T-E-S. Euphrates, P-H-R-A-T-E-S. E-U-P-H-R-A-T-E-S. Euphrates. Tigris and the Euphrates are the 2 rivers that the land between the rivers is Mesopotamia. Okay? That's mostly the modern day country of Iraq. The country of Kuwait didn't even exist back then. It was made out of mud that washed down these rivers and created the land just in the last few thousand years. So the dawn of civilization, there wasn't even a land where the country of Kuwait is today, but there certainly was where Iraq is today. And there were parts of Mesopotamia that are in very northern Syria and very eastern Turkey. But mostly it's what's now called the country of Iraq. Mesopotamia, the land between two rivers, Tigris and the Euphrates. This is where human civilization was first born. And actually, if you look at your Old Testament, that is the land that the great patriarch Abraham came from. When he was still called Abram, he came from Mesopotamia. First worshiper of one God after the flood of Noah story is Abraham. Abram becomes Abraham. And he was from Mesopotamia. So that tracks what we know about the dawn of civilization in Mesopotamia. Now, I'm going to go into some detail about what the word civilization means, but I'm going to save that for now. Just know that the very first civilizations on earth arose in Mesopotamia. Fully developed civilization. All the things we think of as defining civilization about 3000 BC. 3000 BC, roughly 5,000 years ago. So the history of full civilization is about 5,000 years old. And that story begins in Mesopotamia. Now we'll come back to that. But it's not the only place that civilization developed in the ancient world. In fact, if I asked you what is the oldest civilization before you just heard me give this little lecture, I'll bet a lot of you would assume it was Egypt. And you wouldn't be far from right. Because Egypt is another country where civilization developed along the Nile River. Now this is Northeast Africa, right? Civilization developed along the Nile River just after when it began in Mesopotamia. I mean, just a few hundred years perhaps after it began in Mesopotamia, civilization in its fullness developed in the Nile River Valley of Northeast Africa. Okay? So one thing you might notice, the earliest civilizations, and this happened everywhere civilization developed, grew up along rivers, in river valleys, along the banks of rivers. Mesopotamia along the banks of the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers, between them and just on the outside banks of them, and the Nile River Valley, Nile, N-I-L-E, the Nile River Valley of Egypt. Those are the two oldest civilizations on earth. But not terribly long after them, somewhat less than 5,000 years ago, but not a lot less, at least two more civilizations developed, probably independently. Although it's possible Mesopotamia had something to do with the formation of the first of them. One of them was the civilization of the Indus River Valley, I-N-D-U-S, Indus River. That river today is mostly in the country of Pakistan. Parts of it stretch up into northwest India. But the very word India, the name of the country India, comes from the Indus River Valley. The Indus was such an important place. Lots of population, commercial development along the banks of this river because it was a very old civilization. So the third civilization that we're going to study, and possibly the third to develop in time, was the civilization of the Indus River Valley in northwest India, or the modern-day country of Pakistan. But remember, Pakistan was part of India until 1947 AD. So the Pakistan region is culturally part of India for most of human history. So I'll just refer to it as an Indian civilization. Okay, but it's the modern day country of Pakistan, which was created less than just 73 years ago. All right. So the Mesopotamian civilization, Indus and Tigris River, the Euphrates and the Tigris rivers of Mesopotamia, Egyptian civilization on the Nile, the Indus River civilization in northwest India, modern Pakistan. And the other great civilization that arose, again, not terribly long after Mesopotamia's civilization, arose in China. It grew up along two rivers. The Huang, or Yellow River, Huang, Huang, Huang. That's pronounced Huang, but the preferred spelling today in English letters is Huang. But Huang means, in Mandarin Chinese, it means yellow. The Yellow River, or the Huang River, is in India, China, Huang River in China. It's called yellow, by the way, because there is a sediment that erodes out of the cliff sides of the river and gets in the water. That sediment's called loess, Loess, loess. And the loess, when it dissolves in the water of the river, makes the river look yellow, like a dirty yellow, like French mustard yellow. Okay? So that's why it's called the Yellow River, or the Huang River. But this loess soil that dissolves in the water and gets carried down, when the river floods, and it used to flood every year before modern dams stopped it in the 20th century, the river would flood and it would drop this sediment out of the water onto the land, and this loess is great fertilizer for soil. So the land along the Huang River was very rich. And that will help the first civilization in China to grow up along the Huang. And there's another river that runs parallel to the Huang called the Chang, C-H'-A-N-G, C-H'-A-N-G, the Chang River. And Chinese civilization was born by at least 2000 BC along the banks of the Huang and Chang rivers in China. So the old world, the world of Europe, Asia, and Africa. Remember, North and South America are known as the New World because Europeans didn't know about them until Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, right? So we still talk about the old world, the world of Europe, Asia, and Africa. The old world had 4 civilizations develop. Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. Egypt, along the banks of the Nile River in northeast Africa. The Indus River Valley civilization in northwest India, modern Pakistan. And the Chinese civilization that developed along the banks of the Huang, or Yellow, and Chang rivers of China. By 2000 BC, all 4 of those civilizations are going strong. And we think they developed independently. Now, I should tell you that there was one more full civilization that certainly developed independently in human history. But it wasn't in the old world at all. It was in the new world. And the only full civilization, the one that had all the things that make what is classically called a civilization, the only one that grew up in the new world, completely independently, nothing to do at all with the old world civilizations I've been talking about, was the Maya civilization, M-A-Y-A, Maya civilization of Central America, southern Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras. Central America, the Maya civilization, which had achieved all the elements of civilization by about 300 BC. So it comes along later than these others, thousands of years later than the other 4 I've just talked about. But it is a true civilization in the New World, in Central America, with all the things we think of that make a civilization, and yet it developed completely independently. Nothing to do with Mesopotamia, Egypt, China, India. No exchange of people or ideas or anything. So it's a really interesting story. Now, we're going to focus primarily in this term on the civilizations of the old world, because this is a course in Western civilization. Western civilization grows out of primarily the civilizations of Mesopotamia and Egypt. They knew nothing about the Indus River civilization in Europe until the 1800s, the very end of the 1800s AD. It was buried and forgotten. And they knew a little bit about the ancient Chinese civilizations, but again, only after Marco Polo got there at about 1250 AD in Europe. So their culture grew up looking back to the biblical civilizations, you know, from the Old Testament, the Babylonians, the Chaldeans, the Canaanites, and so on. Those are all people of the Mesopotamian and the closely related cultures. Or they knew, of course, also, which is another biblical civilization. Remember, the Hebrews lived in Egypt. So Europeans had known for a very, very long time about Egyptian and Mesopotamian civilization. But it was only in relatively recent times they learned about the Indus River, the Chinese civilization. And no European or North American knew anything about the Maya until the middle of the 1800s AD. Okay? So as a course in Western civilization, we're going to focus on Europe in this term. And we'll deal with these other civilizations because I want you to know about them. They are important. But Indus River, India, China, we will talk about them as we get to when Europeans began to deal with them. The Romans dealt with India, so I'll talk about Indian civilization then. And the Romans knew about China, and so after we get through the Romans into the early Middle Ages, we'll take a break from the Western world and look at the Chinese civilization of this period. Late in the year, sometime in mid to late spring, we'll talk about the Maya and the Inca. The Inca weren't a full civilization. But anyway, this is the first lecture. You're going to have 2 more to listen to today. But this is the first lecture for Tuesday, the 8th of September. You're going to have a paper with a few questions to answer short answers on about this video. So when you finish, answer those written questions and then come back for more. Okay? Thank you.